Welcome to a journey into the origins of thought, where we will explore the minds that shape the very foundations of our understanding. Hello, my name is Mike, and I am the host of Mind Escape Podcast. I am happy to share my new series called Masters of Rhetoric. Masters of Rhetoric is a free course/podcast. The goal is to draw from the earliest philosophers, scientists, and critical thinkers to help navigate the current technological paradigm. In a world where divisive and heuristic rhetoric often dominate online spaces, I believe it's crucial to return to the roots of dialectic. This approach can offer the thoughtful discourse that humanity desperately needs today. So join us on this philosophical adventure by subscribing to our channel and podcast. Engage with us through your comments and critiques. We're excited to hear your thoughts. Let's embark on this journey together with Masters of Rhetoric. Enjoy the series. Rhetoric. Now, this wouldn't be Masters of Rhetoric without understanding what rhetoric is. So, rhetoric is the art of persuasion through the use of language. It involves the study and practice of effective communication, particularly in the areas of speaking and writing. Rhetoric is concerned with how messages are constructed to influence an audience, and it encompasses various techniques and strategies to make arguments more convincing, engaging, or emotionally resonant. Classically, rhetoric is divided into three main modes of persuasion. Number 1, ethos, appeals to the speaker's credibility or character. 2, pathos, appeals to the audience's emotions. And 3, logos, appeals to logic and reason. Rhetoric has been a central discipline in Western education since ancient Greece, where philosophers like Aristotle explored its principles and applications. It is used in various contexts, from political speeches, legal arguments, to advertising everyday communication. Now, part of the reason why I'm doing this series, Masters of Rhetoric, is the crazy amount of heuristic rhetoric that you see on social media apps and online today. We will go into what heuristic rhetoric is and how it was employed and how it's still employed. That will be part of this series. Masters of Rhetoric, episode number 3, Aristotle. Aristotle lived between 384 and 322 BC. He was born in Stygia, northern Greece, and died in Euboea, Greece. Aristotle was a classical Greek philosopher and a polymath. A polymath is someone who excels in multiple disciplines. Aristotle founded the Lyceum and the Peripatetic school of philosophy. Aristotelianism is a school of thought or tradition inspired by the work of Aristotle. This school of thought influenced early Christian and Islamic philosophers. Aristotle was considered one of the fathers of Western philosophy. Aristotle's writings covered many topics such as metaphysics, physics, biology, psychology, zoology, logic, politics, economics, rhetoric, linguistics, ethics, aesthetics, theater, poetry, and music. Between the age of 17 and 18, Aristotle joined Plato's academy in Athens. He studied there as a student until around the age of 37. After Plato died, Aristotle left Athens. He took King Philip II of Macedonia's offer up to teach and tutor his son Alexander the Great, starting around 343 BC, when Alexander was around the age of 13. Aristotle's physical science had a huge influence on science and academics until the Enlightenment in the 18th century. He was the first one to study formal logic. This was the dominant form of logic in Western philosophy until mathematical logic made advancements in the 19th century. He applied deductive reasoning to arrive at a conclusion based on 2 or more propositions that are assumed to be true. Empiricism. Unlike Plato, who emphasized ideal forms and abstract reasoning, Aristotle focused on empirical observation, stressing that knowledge comes from sensory experience and careful analysis of the natural world. Aristotle wrote dialogues that were preserved in forms of treatises. His most notable works were On the Soul, poetics, politics, physics, metaphysics, and Nicomachean ethics. In the work Metaphysics, he discusses substance and essence. His philosophical theory, hylomorphism, states that things are comprised of both matter and form. His teacher Plato believed that there was a separate world of forms that actual things imitate in this reality. Aristotle deviated from that thought and believed that things were an overlapping of form and matter. When it comes to epistemology, Aristotle's immanent realism means his knowledge is based on the study of things and observations of the natural world and rises to the universal. Plato's epistemological views came from the realm of the universal forms and worked its way down to the natural world, which he believed were imitations of the true realm of forms. Even though Aristotle was Plato's student, you can see their epistemological views come from opposite ends of the spectrum. Out of all ancient Greek philosophers, Aristotle had the largest influence on what we call modern science. His natural philosophy examined the phenomena of the natural world. Today, that would translate into biology, physics, and natural sciences. Aristotle built on Empedocles' theory of the four elements. The elements were earth, water, air, and fire. Aristotle added the ether as the fifth element. He believed ether was the divine substance of the heavenly spheres, planets, and stars. Aristotle believed that there was four causes of how things came to be. Number 1, material cause. Describe the material that things are composed of. Number 2, formal cause, the essence or arrangement of that matter. Number 3, efficient cause, the primary source. This is related to the modern definitions of cause. Final cause, or telos, the purpose of a thing or why something is done. It was Aristotle who formalized and extensively developed the art of rhetoric in his work or treatise, Rhetoric. Aristotle defined rhetoric as the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion, laying out the three main modes of persuasion: ethos, which is credibility; pathos, which is emotional appeal; and logos, which is logical argument. There was rhetoric earlier employed by the early sophists and found in Plato's dialogues, Gorgias, Protagoras, and you can even find eristic rhetoric in the Euthydemus. Aristotle was aware that his work and formalization on rhetoric could help arm sophists and lesser thinkers with a powerful tool. However, by him turning it into an art did open the door for less than honorable people to misuse it. Aristotle's key philosophical areas. Ethics. Nicomachean ethics. Nicomachean ethics is named after his son, Nicomachus. In his work, Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle discusses the concept of eudaimonia, which is translated into happiness or flourishing, which he believed to be the highest human good. Nicomachean Ethics in Book 1, Section 2 on happiness and flourishing, or eudaimonia, if there is some end of the things we do, which we desire for its own sake, everything else desired for its own sake of this. And if we do not choose everything for the sake of something else, so that our desire would be empty and vain, clearly this must be the good and chief good. To break that down, Aristotle arrived at happiness is a result of exercising the virtues. Virtue ethics. Aristotle proposed that moral virtue is a habit and is found in the golden mean between extreme excess and deficiency. Example: courage is the mean between recklessness and cowardice. Metaphysics. Substance and essence. Aristotle explored what things are made of, substance, and what they truly are, essence, distinguishing between actuality, what a thing is, and potentiality, what a thing could become. Unmoved mover. In his metaphysical work, Aristotle introduced the concept of the unmoved mover, which is a fundamental principle that causes motion in the universe without itself being moved. Politics, the good life in society. In politics, Aristotle argued that humans are naturally political animals and that the purpose of the state is to promote the good life for its citizens. Mixed government. He advocated for a mixed form of government that combined elements of democracy, oligarchy, and monarchy, believing it would provide stability and balance. Natural science, biology and classification. Aristotle is considered one of the first scientists, and he categorized plants and animals into different groups, observing their behavior and anatomy. Teleology and nature. He believed that all living things have a purpose, and that nature does nothing without reason or purpose. Aristotle's connection with biology and zoology. While Aristotle is celebrated for his works on metaphysics and ethics, his contributions to biology and zoology are sometimes overlooked. He was one of the earliest systematic biologists, spending considerable time studying marine animals on the islands of Lesbos. His observations of marine life, particularly cephalopods like octopus and cuttlefish, are remarkably accurate. He even dissected animals and documented over 500 species, making him one of the pioneers of empirical biological studies. His work Historia Animalium, A History of Animals, contains the detailed descriptions of their anatomy and behavior. Lesser-known fact. Aristotle's classification of animals into two categories, blooded, which is similar to vertebrates, and bloodless, similar to invertebrates, influenced biology for centuries. Aristotle and his love for mathematics. Despite being less mathematically inclined than his teacher Plato, Aristotle made notable contributions to early logic and mathematics. His work in logic, including the development of syllogism, a kind of logical argument, is an indirect foundation for later mathematical logic. However, a lesser-known aspect is that Aristotle believed mathematics should be subordinate to metaphysics and empirical science. He held that mathematics could only offer abstract truths, but couldn't fully explain the complexities of natural phenomena. Lesser-known fact. Aristotle wrote a now-lost treatise on mathematics, on indivisible lines, which focused on geometric concepts and may have criticized the abstractness of mathematics. The anecdote of Aristotle's peripatetic teaching style. Aristotle founded the Lyceum, a school in Athens, where he taught for 12 years. One of the unique aspects of his teaching style was that he would often walk around while lecturing to his students, leading to the term peripatetic, which means walking around. The peripatetic school derived its name from this tradition. Aristotle believed that engaging the body through walking stimulated the mind and helped with learning and thinking. I actually agree with this and do this myself. In the past, whenever I've been thinking or on a business call or something, I always have to walk around, or there's definitely something to walking around. It gets your mind moving. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I can identify with this. Lesser known anecdote. It's said that Aristotle had two distinct styles of teaching at the Lyceum. One for the morning, esoteric, where he engaged in deep philosophical discourse, and one for the afternoon, exoteric, which was more public and accessible. His influence on music theory. Aristotle's contributions to music theory, particularly in his Politics and Poetics, are less frequently highlighted. Aristotle believed that music had a profound impact on human emotions and moral character, proposing that certain types of music could lead to specific emotional or ethical outcomes. For example, he considered that music in the Dorian mode fostered temperance and courage, while Phrygian mode could incite enthusiasm and emotion. Again, I completely identify this, especially as a musician. The different modes and whether it's a style of music or whatever can definitely invoke different feelings, emotions, and put you in a setting, just music alone. Lesser known contribution. Aristotle emphasized the educational and psychological value of music, arguing that it should be an essential part of a citizen's education in his ideal state. Aristotle's forgotten works on comedy. While Aristotle's Poetics is famous for its analysis of tragedy and drama, it is less well known that Aristotle wrote a second part on comedy, which was lost over time. The lost Poetics, too, might have explored the principles and mechanics of comedy in the same way that the surviving Poetics examines tragedy. Scholars have long speculated about the content of this work and its potential influence on the history of comedy. Lesser-known contribution: Aristotle's theories on catharsis and the emotional release caused by art likely extended to comedy, making him one of the earliest theorists on humor and its societal function. Aristotle's ethical theory of friendship. While Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics is well known, one of the most overlooked parts of his ethical system is his detailed explanation of friendship, philia. Aristotle saw friendship as essential to a good life and classified it into three types: friendships of utility, pleasure, and virtue. The highest form of friendship, according to Aristotle, was based on mutual respect and admiration for each other's virtues. Lesser-known fact: Aristotle believed that friendships based on virtue are rare but necessary for a true friendship, and he considered them to be as important as justice in society. Aristotle's contribution to meteorology. Aristotle also contributed to early meteorology in his work Meteorology, where he attempted to explain natural phenomena like rain, wind, thunder, and earthquakes. Though much of his meteorological theories have since been debunked, such as his idea that winds were caused by exhalations from the earth, his attempt to provide natural explanations for these phenomena was an important step in the history of science. Lesser-known contribution: Aristotle correctly theorized that stars did not generate their own light, which was a remarkable observation for his time. Aristotle's concept of potentiality and actuality. Aristotle's philosophical contributions include the development of the concepts of potentiality and actuality, which are foundational in his metaphysical system. He argued that everything in nature has the potential to reach a specific form or purpose, its telos, but that it must undergo a process of change to realize this potential actuality. Lesser-known application. This idea deeply influenced medieval scholasticism and later metaphysics, where it was applied not to just natural processes, but to theological debates regarding the nature of God and existence. Aristotle's personal life, a humble appearance. Despite his intellectual stature, Aristotle is said to have been rather unimpressive in appearance. Ancient accounts describe him as short and stocky with small eyes and a lisp. His students, however, admired him for his intellect and teaching style. This anecdote highlights how, despite his physical shortcomings, Aristotle's mental prowess made him one of the most influential figures of Western thought. Aristotle's alleged funeral eulogy for Hermias. Aristotle had a personal relationship with Hermias, a ruler in Asia Minor, who was also a patron of his. When Hermias was killed by the Persians, Aristotle wrote a funeral eulogy praising his friend. This shows a personal and emotional side of Aristotle not often mentioned in his philosophical works. Influence and legacy. Influence on medieval philosophy. Aristotle's works were later translated into Latin and became foundational texts for medieval scholars, especially in Christian and Islamic philosophy. Influence on Western thought. Aristotle's thinking deeply influenced Western philosophy, especially in the fields of logic, metaphysics, ethics, and political theory. Aristotle's work covered a wide range of topics, from metaphysics and ethics to biology, physics, and rhetoric, making him one of the most influential philosophers in history. Conclusions. Do you think Aristotle formalizing and honing the art of rhetoric helped or hurt humanity? Socrates and Plato used mathematics and logic to drive their points home when engaged in dialectic. Aristotle diverged from his teacher by utilizing biology and empiricism. Do you think this was a paradigm shift that ultimately had a massive influence that led to modern science? What do you think Aristotle's most important contribution to philosophy or science was, and why? Why was Aristotle not considered a sophist? Do you think Aristotle had any impact on shaping Alexander the Great's mind, given he taught him when Alexander was only 13 and it was only for a short period of time? What is something you learned about Aristotle from either his life or philosophies that you can employ in your own life?